Welcome into our Occidental Center for the Arts virtual literary series. This evening, celebrating the earth through poetry with our beloved Sonoma County Poets Laureate, Phyllis Meshlem, and Youth Poet Laureate, Zoya Ahmed. As you know, OCA's mission has always been to educate, entertain, and inspire through the events we offer the community through music, dance, theater, written word, and the visual arts. And despite this last year's challenge, we continue to thrive, having received over, I don't know, Tina needs to confirm with me, but 5,000 views, I think, of our varied events from
11,000.
how many?
11,000.
11,000 of our varied events, from virtual concerts to gallery shows to book launches and literary panels. Tonight, we're so glad you're here to help us celebrate both National Poetry Month and our mother planet and encourage us to take care of her. This couldn't be a more crucial time to stop, look, and listen to her. Although for many of you, these two poets need no introduction, I'd like to offer you all a brief biography of each. Phyllis is our current Poet Laureate for Sonoma County and author of Land of My Father's War, winner of an Artist Embassy International Prize in 2019. Joy Harjo, U.S. Poet Laureate, said of Meshlem's book, An Urgency of Spirit has emerged eloquently here in these poems of perception and even prophecy. Phyllis has also authored 4 other titles and is teacher for California poets in the schools. She also edited Cal Poets Poetry Crossing, which Poetry Flash called a joyful collection of lessons and poems. And personally, I gave that book to my granddaughters who lived in Nicaragua, who are bilingual, whose mother is Nicaraguan, so that they could be passing it along to their friends in Nicaragua. So it crossed boundaries, definitely, just on a family level. Um, Phyllis has an MFA from Vermont College of Fine Arts and her BA from Pomona College. She has her bilingual certificate of competence from the state of California. In her duties as County Poet Laureate, she's been working on making some very reliable lessons available for school-aged kids in a video format. And she's starting on her second project, a county-wide poetry anthology, which will aim to address issues of justice and sustainability. And just for your information, she'll be giving a workshop on Thursday, May 13th through Sebastopol Center of the Arts, a poetry workshop on how to be part of that anthology. The deadline is August 1st, but you can take her workshop and learn how you can enter a submission for that anthology. Zoya Ahmed is the first and current Youth Poet Laureate of Sonoma County. She's an 18-year-old writer and was a former Sonoma County Poetry Out Loud champion. She proceeded to become a finalist at the statewide Poetry Out Loud competition in 2019. She was also the 2019 winner for California's Poetry Ourselves competition with her original poem entitled A Concerto of Spice. Zoya's love for poetry began when she was 5 years old when she read her first book, Green Eggs and Ham. She is a poet that faces the tough and sensitive issues surrounding systemic racism and prejudice today, while also embracing and celebrating her own South Asian culture in her poetry. She hopes that her poems give a voice to all those who are or have been silenced. This evening, Phyllis and Zoya have chosen readings from their poetry collections that focus on the theme of Mother Earth. So settle in, soften your eyes, and open your hearts to their words. A Q&A will follow in which we encourage you, the audience, to use the chat room option to ask your question. I will then read them out loud to the poets and we'll hear their responses. As you know, this and all our virtual events are free. We encourage you, however, to help our center stay afloat with your generous donations. We couldn't have survived this last year without you and can't tell you how much we appreciate your ongoing support. Hopefully in the near future, we'll be returning to our center, continuing to follow the county's guidelines on health safety. So with no further ado, I introduce you to Phyllis and Zoya's beautiful poetry.
Thank you so much, Suze. Hi, everybody. We're so grateful to the OCA for inviting us today and giving us a chance to celebrate Earth Day just passed and National Poetry Month together. The first poem I'd like to share with you takes a kind of fanciful approach to describing my commitment to doing something about the climate. I'm kind of imagining myself as an initiate into Celtic shamanism. That cosmos consisted of three worlds, the lower world, the upper world, and the middle world, all connected by the great tree of life. The upper world was the realm of the great mother goddess herself. So here it is, initiation. Initiation. More than halfway through the journey of my life, I have discovered a path and taken a task. Hot January afternoon, unblinking sun, and I am homesick for winter. Homesick too for the shade of my childhood's backyard tree, in whose roots and branches I am often tangled in dreams. Maybe I can climb, not the tree, there is no tree here, but the faint zigzag of wispy clouds. I am a seeker, wondering what to do about this taut lens of dry air that puts my piece of the planet under a burning magnifying glass. And I am compelled by tales of the cauldron-born bard and of the old one who brews rosemary and sage into her tonics, her truths. The switchbacks of clouds are steep, granite dusty. Of course I fall. Why am I always falling? Grating my shins, breathing the dust, twisting my sticks. Thirsty for rain, I persist until I stand blistering before the heat waves of a bronze cauldron, askew in space. I peer inside. There she is in a molten mirror. Okay, so Zoya's gonna read now.
Yes, that was a beautiful poem, Phyllis. My poem, it's not technically my poem, it's Denise Levertov's poem, In California, Morning, Evening, Late January. But I thought it was fitting for starting our beautiful poetry event. So here I go. Pale, then enkindled, light advancing, emblazoning summits of palm and pine, the dew lingering, scripture of scintillas. Soon the roar of mowers cropping the already short grass of lawns, men with long nozzled cylinders of pesticide poking at weeds, at moss and cracks of cement. And louder roar of helicopters off to spray vineyards where braceros try to hold their breath. And in the distance, bulldozers, excavators, babble of destructive construction banded by deep oak shadow, airy shadow of eucalyptus. Miners' lettuce, tender, untasted, and other grass unmown, luxuriant, no green more brilliant. Fragile paradise. At day's end, the whole sky, vast, unstinting, flooded with transparent mauve, tint of wisteria, cloudless over the malls, the industrial parks, and homes with the lights going on, the homeless arranging their bundles. Who can utter the poignance of all that is constantly threatened, invaded, and expended, and constantly, nevertheless, persists in beauty? Tranquil as this young moon just risen and slowly drinking light from the vanished sun. Who can utter the praise of such generosity or the shame? Great. Thank you.
Wow, Zoya, that was amazing.
Thank you,
Thank
Phyllis.
you.
Wow.
Okay, so my next poem, it was written after the Deepwater Horizon explosion in 2010. This killed 11 workers and spilled 210 million gallons of oil. It makes use of the kind of poetics that were used in Beowulf and other poems of that day. So each line has a break in the middle, and the two sides are joined by repeated sounds, often alliteration. It's called O Gulf. Then, as dawn brightened and the day broke, Grendel's powers of destruction were plain. That's from Beowulf. Oil painting of turquoise dusk, sun setting on salmon waves, scaly waters, scaffolding, giant human-like form, floating, balancing a beacon. At sea's floor, silica crust punctured, cement seal exploded, spewing underwater tornadoes. Sunset dot, a rouge of sun, rig figure fire masked, flame heads flared. Charcoal bones collapsed, sank, wave wetted. Real human forms plunge into wet eternity. Gaseous gushing, then whole districts of sheared fish. Oiled pelicans turned into earthworms. Turtles, my totems, capsized, dying in the slick. Turtles, my link to the Triassic. What are we? Cain's spawn? Like Grendel? Ready to devour, befoul all the rest of creation? O Gulf, forgive our greasy stigmata left on eons of blue water. Thank you.
Mm.
Wow, Phyllis, what a powerful poem. That was really touching. And just speaking of oil again, I think it's just such a big thing in concerning our environment and everything going on. But I wrote the poem "The Real Cost of Oil" after I actually saw this video about how Syrian children, or I think it was Syrian children, who were playing over these streams. And what were streams, they were now dark and they were filled with oil because oil was spilled after the Americans had kind of left. I think when Donald Trump kind of, they had oil rigs, and our previous president decided to, take use of those rigs when they captured the area. So I wanted to talk about kind of concerning the Middle East and oil. So the real cost of oil. One word dances on tongue. Dale, oil. Dance with a word, her fingers, dance with the blood of matriarchs, dance through my scalp, through my dark bundles of knots, strands woven with this dance of oil. As if it were a passage of motherhood, every mother dances this dance, runs the sacred nectar through her daughter's hair, her two hands a crucible of liquid gold, her piety. She dampens the fields, locks growing like maize, replenishing the roots. Olive reeds growing out of my temples, coconut cream seeps into my mind like rainwater on damp forest floor. Almonds soak the smell of badam like smoke. No matter the oil, the pride of millions of matriarchs perched on my head, a crown. But the pride turns to shame when the oil from another mother gets you called a foe. No, We were born over a pool of oil, our dark skin ripened to match the gold. Those that called themselves the winners, the conquerors, their calling, the cowards called us the enemies in the name of the commodity. Those who kissed the sweet smelling red earth, blessed by their mother because she named them her protectors. But why is that those who are blessed are the ones that have to pray? Those who embrace their mothers are the ones that have to pay. Cowards kill their paradise for a charcoal like tar in order to create what's man-made. Have you forgotten the paradise she gave you for free? Because how can we be so ignorant? Now there is no paradise to see. The fields are gone and one can barely breathe. I'm sorry. We are the ones who failed you, Mother, failed to protect you. But the oil in our hair dances with the oil our so-called saviors want to reap. For those who don't know, this is the crisis of the Middle East. Thank you.
Wow. Oh, that was amazing, Zoya.
Oh, it's beautiful. Wow, Zoya, that's so powerful. Thank you.
You need to get that into a book, and I want to buy it.
Yeah, me too. I second that. That's so powerful. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I'd like to read a poem, not my own, but by the wonderful African-American poet Camille Denji. In this book, she deals with issues of race, new motherhood, and also the environment. And here's her poem, Characteristics of Life, from this book, Trophic Cascade. Characteristics of life. A fifth of animals without backbones could be at risk of extinction, say scientists. BBC Nature News. Ask me if I speak for the snail, and I will tell you. I speak for the snail. I speak of underneathedness and the welcome of mosses, of life that springs up, little lives that pull back and wait for a moment. I speak for the damselfly, water skeet, mollusk, the caterpillar, the beetle, the spider, the ant. I speak from the time before spinelessness was frowned upon. Ask me if I speak for the moon jelly. I will tell you one thing today and another tomorrow, and I will be as consistent as anything alive on this earth. I move as the currents move with the breezes. What part of your nature drives you? You in your cubicle ought to understand me. I filter and filter and filter all day. Ask me if I speak for the nautilus, and I will be silent as the nautilus on a shelf. I can be beautiful and useless if that's all you know to ask of me. Ask me what I know of longing, and I will speak of distances between meadows of night blooming flowers. I will speak the impossible hope of the firefly. You with the candle burning and only one chair at your table must understand such wordless desire. To say it is mindless is missing the point.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you, Phyllis, for picking that poem for this reading. I truly need to read that one again. Beautiful. Thank you. For the next poem, it's not one of my own again. It's by Craig Santos Perez from Understory. And I've picked two actually poems today to read by Craig Santos Perez because he is a very amazing eco-poet. And he has a very interesting background. He talks a lot about the Pacific Islands. He was from Guam. And he has a very interesting view on the environment and our relationship with it. So from Understory. For my pregnant wife, Melanie, during her second trimester. Melanie and I walk to our small community garden plot in Manoa. The seed packets in my pocket sound like a baby's toy rattle. When do they spray glyphosate along the sidewalks? From Cunha to Waimea, 50,000 acres of GMO fields. How will open air pesticide drift affect our unborn daughter, whose nerve endings are just beginning to root? We plant seeds in rows. Soil gathers under our fingernails. Syngenta, DuPont, Dow, Pioneer, Bast, Monsanto. $240 million seed sector. Corn for cattle field and syrup. Runoff turns our streams red. Poisons, lowy. 50,000 heart sea urchins die off. What will our daughter be able to plant in this paradise of fugitive dust? Thank you.
Wow.
So a few years ago, I took a workshop in which we were instructed to bring a poem in a musical form, like a sonnet. And the workshop was in January, and I was influenced by having recently sung Handel's Messiah to choose a couple of lines from that to help create a villanelle, a form that has repeating lines in it. But I was also influenced by a vision I'd had in the bathtub of riding on the back of a polar bear. I don't know what that was about, but here's the poem that resulted. In Wilderness, a villanelle with lines from Handel's Messiah. Like sheep, we each turn to our own way, deaf to each other and animal kin, and that voice that's crying in the wilderness. I find myself in a blur of snow, with bleakest blue along horizon's edge. I've gone astray and turned to my own way. And then a distant form, a shambling shape, and sounds like moans and hollering, a voice that's crying in the wilderness. The bear is white and shuffles up to me. She touches her nose to my nose and kneels. I wonder if she too has lost her way. I climb her back, her bristles thick, well greased. Her back accepts me like a cub. I fit. She lifts her voice and again and sings her woes. Beneath her fur, I see her tough black skin, sure-footed with snowshoe paws, hairy toes. She's suited to this place, is not astray. We travel to the edge of crumbling ice where 400 miles to swim for food has made her lose her cub. I hope I'm not too far astray, for I must share this wilderness filled with cries. And now we decided that I would read two in a row because of the theme of animals. And so now I'm going to read you a poem called Earthworks. And this poem was inspired by a trip to the Galapagos, which I had the great privilege to visit in 2018. And so this is Earthworks about the Galapagos Islands. Lucky to visit a volcano barely cooled into island, I see a water cave striped moss green, amethyst purple. Frigate birds, red balloons at their throats, copy Groucho's brows with their wings. Tan iguanas, jowls shaking with menacing grins, butt heads, rub butts, decorate the black cliffs like Greek vases. Boobies break dance, pose in niches in virginal blue, turn into arrows diving for fishes. There's a rocky outcrop with a standing census of 20 penguins in spite of warming waters. Primping plush feathers and down, white eyebrows. That sea lion pup, typical toddler, ready to take on the world, explores away from napping mom, calls down sun to sparkle off wet fur. I get to snorkel in the greenish world of the turtle, a traffic jam among waving fronds, but steady flippers stroke with ease, poise, timing. Meanwhile, some human Galapagos, whose erstwhile fishing livelihood is mixed, for whom the tourist trade is bust, not boom, break into a steady study center full of timelines, maps, carvings of local creatures. Lynch a tortoise, leave it hanging from the rafters. It could have lived 100 more years. Don't be shocked. Our traffic jams, our traffic and fossils, my jet fuel imperil every bit of this. A pod of dolphins is clad to match the blue-gray water, plump as the dinghy I sit in, and almost close enough to pet. They arch their spines in aquabatic joy, surrounding me, bounding, calling me. How will I answer?
Oh my God. Both of those poems were so great, especially the last one was so vivid. Thank you, Phyllis.
Yeah.
Oh,
The,
so
the
great.
description, that was just stunning, Phyllis. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. For the next poem, it's another Craig Santos Perez poem. It's called Halloween in Anthropocene, 2015. Um, and I don't know, something about this poem, it just really stuck out to me. And it had so much to say about this intersectionality between humanity and how we affect the environment, and how while we live in a privileged place in a first world country, those in third world countries really see those effects and have to do so much and sacrifice so much. So here it is, Halloween in the Anthropocene, 2015.
Hmm.
Darkness spills across the sky like an oil plume. The moon reflects bleached coral. Tonight, let us praise the sacrifice. Praise the souls of Black boys enslaved by supply chains who carry bags of cacao under West African heat. Sugar treats, smell my feet, give me something good to eat, sings a girl dressed as a Disney princess. Let us praise the souls of brown girls who sew our clothes as fire unthreads sweatshops into smoke and ash. Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good, whispered kids disguised as ninjas. Tonight, let us praise the souls of Asian children who manufacture toys and tech until gravity sharpens their bodies enough to cut through suicide nets. Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me, shout boys camouflaged as soldiers. Let us praise the souls of veterans who salute with their guns because only triggers will pull God into their ruined temples. Trick or treat, smell my feet, chant kids masquerading as cowboys and Indians. Tonight, let us praise the souls of Native youth whose eyes are open pit uranium mines, veins are poison rivers, hearts are tar sands, tailing ponds. Trick or treat, says a boy dressed as a sun. Let us praise El Nino, his growing pains. Praise his mother, Ocean, who is dying in a warming bath among dead fish and refugee children. Let us praise our mothers of asthma, mothers of cancer clusters, mothers of miscarriage. Pray for us, because our costumes won't hide the true cost of our greed. Praise our mothers of lost habitats, mothers of fallout, mothers of extinction. Pray for us, because even tomorrow will be haunted. Leave them, leave us, leave. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
I wasn't aware of that poet before, but I'm going to look into him more, believe me.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. Could you repeat his name? Greg Santos Perez?
It's Craig Santos Perez.
Perez? Craig. Okay. Craig Santos Perez. Perez.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. That's, I mean, it's a wonderful voice to add to yours, so that the beautiful poetry is powerful.
Okay, so this next poem is named for a character from Ovid's Metamorphoses, and we've been warning, people have been warning about overconsumption since the time of Ovid in the, you know, in the Roman Empire. So I think it's a cautionary tale for us humans today, and our habits of overconsumption are risking destroying our whole planet. So the third section is in the voice of Erysichthon. You'll hear him a little bit before that too. He was a Thessalian king who chopped down the sacred grove of the goddess Demeter, or Ceres, in order to build himself a feast hall. 1. A many-turreted tree sacred to holy Ceres, twig fingers webbed with new green, prayer flags attached. But he will have none of that. For lumber and his empire, it will be dispatched. Foreman, henchman, bring it down. Who cares for the curse of the resident nymph? I will build the finest feast hall, the polish, the sheen of its hardwood floors, the glossy tables with an inner flame captured in its woody grain, the dazzling chandeliers. 2. Sir, I cannot chop it, the foreman says. You will, or I'll chop you, he tells him, and does. Man and tree both shed human blood. The nymph calls out her curse, then calls on Ceres, goddess of grain and plenty, who calls on the shriveled wraith Hunger to inhabit him. 3. This is in his voice. Hunger, hunger, mine, stirs, burns, platterful of quail, their toothpick bones slide down, and the cavern opens again. Platterful of roast goat, consumed. Sell the platter after licking off its grease. Sell the feast hall for a few more feasts. And when the oxen is gone, dismembered, limb by limb, its blood all drunk for wine, the last goblet filled, drained, sold, for the price of one last pour. Sell the daughter as a slave, her anklets fetch an extra price. And when all that is gone, what of this hairy arm? I cry in pain when I bite it, but it must be shoveled into the roaring furnace of my gut. What of this muscled leg? Thank you.
Wow, so
Oh,
great, Phyllis. Such
wow.
a powerful message. I truly love that. Thank you. Um, the next poem I'll be reading is called Sky Valley. Um, and I think that, especially as a youth, we get kind of caught up in this race of success. And that success and the monetary and physical material things and our needs as human beings is costing our environment. So it kind of talks about how when you cut away from that and that need, it's relief. So Sky Valley. I look up at the sky and it's simple. It's blank and blue, colorful while being colorless. Imagine if we could float without the weight of our problems chained to our feet, without killing ourselves, without killing the beauty of paradise, killing for the material things. We wouldn't be human. Exhausting and monotonous, dreary and endless. I don't want to be human anymore. to lose myself in the dirt, the grass, the gold. I want to be a cloud by day and a star by night. I want to live in Sky Valley. Thank you.
Mm.
And for the sake of time, I will let Phyllis go on with her next poem after this.
You sure?
For
I
sure.
thought you were gonna do Mood Ring next.
I would, but also we're cutting short of time. So if you could go, that would be amazing.
Okay. All right. So finally, my last poem is a prayer poem for forgiveness from the planet. Here's Traveler's Prayers. Matins, dawn on the airplane just before takeoff. A head turn away, the clouds have grown roses in profusion. Fuchsia rays grace the inhabitants of left cabin. Like their shadows, I bow my head. Vernal meditation en route to mountains. Grasses and trees flaunt fresh green. Clouds shift their colors, distend the bellows of their lungs. In luxury, I ride by in my carriage drawn by fossils. Approaching Calaveras Big Tree State Park, Pinions, ponderosas, Jeffreys are marked with orange tags or their own orange needles. 66 million trees in the Sierra, dead of drought and bark beetles. May my miles be worthy. May my stories serve. May my sharings, growings deserve. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wow. Thank you, Phyllis. That was amazing. Truly, truly great. And then I think the last poem of the evening is Cotton Candy Skies. And though the messages were quite powerful this evening, we kind of end on a lighter note, just a really great appreciation for the beauty of nature and the serenity that it gives. This poem was based off of, it's one of my first poems when I started as Youth Poet Laureate, and it's based off of Point Reyes. I went there quite a lot as a kid. My dad couldn't get enough of California's serene beauty, so we went all over really. So it's Cotton Candy Skies. I swallow the breeze, the cold air glossy over my skin, crisp, almost minty, as a cloud seeps through my fingertips, catching hues of pinks and blues, wisps of sugar melting into my glassy gaze. I sway. The wind, the oncoming darkness, like ocean waves crashing against my fluttering eyelids. A lingering sweetness, a cotton candy sky, dissolving into the darkness, the sweetness now bitter. The golden coast of the Golden State. Thank you.
Wow,
Excellent.
beautiful. Oh, both of you,
I
thank
forgot
you.
to show you my little earth marble that I'm wearing tonight.
Oh, nice. I just thank you so much, both of you, for your powerful words, and we want to get those words out. I mean, poetry is one of the strongest voices because it just cuts right to your heart, bypasses the brain and goes straight to the heart. And both of both of your styles are so good, and we just want to get you heard, and I think you have been. Yeah. I had a question for you, Zoya, and I hope that's all right. In terms of your writing, do you did you have mentors along the way as you began to perceive that poetry was your voice? Were there mentors that have guided you towards discovering your voice? And so that's my first question. And then the other is advice for young writers. What advice would you give?
For sure. In terms of mentors, I mean, of course, my father played a big, big role. And, most of my poetry is my family is my muse, and I wasn't a great writer. So when I wrote poetry and I really genuinely wanted to be good, I thought about the one thing that I do know and that I'm an expert of, and that's my family. We are taught about our family, and family plays such a big cultural role in you know, in where I live and with the people who surround me. So they definitely played a role. But then mentors, especially in Sonoma County, Phyllis was a huge one. She, the first person that I met through Poetry Out Loud was Phyllis. She was hosting that first night, that competition. And, there's these Sonoma County poets who have so much experience. And I had the pleasure of attending so many poetry readings with you, with other local poets, and they're always inspiring me. So after every poetry event, I want to go and write something because I learned something in style, or I learned something in message, or I learned something in just, what they bring to that platform, to that name of poetry. So
Mm.
yeah, so many mentors, so many poets, and of course my family. And then in terms of what I want to say to young poets or young writers, you know, never think you can't do it, or you're bad, or who's gonna read it, because I think poetry and writing is just personal, and if it's personal enough that it means something to you, it's going to mean something to a lot of people, and there's going to be an audience for that. And especially with me, when I was coming into poetry, I was a youth poet, and I'm, one of the few people of color or poets of color in the space around me. So I didn't know that if my, like, brown girl angsty teen poetry will always appeal to, my audience. But, people find like something relatable about it. And you don't always need people to feel fulfilled and satisfied. So I think that's just my message to young poets. It's just right, there's the audience is you. That's the thing.
Mm, yeah, yeah. You know, I uh it's interesting. Annie Lamott did say something as an advice to writers at the NPR thing I heard a few weeks ago. Is she said, for those writers who feel really intimidated, just make a frame on your desk, an inch by an inch frame, and every day write something to fill that frame every day, and accept that it's going to be bad, but say it out loud, write it, and then it'll keep getting revised and revised. And but don't be afraid to take that 1 inch frame, put it on your desk, and fill it every day with what you want to say. And it was really powerful, I think, because I think young writers and poets, they think they have to write some huge perfect tome that's going to be instantly published, and they're terrified of writing down their truth. And so I applaud you so much for having the courage and giving others the courage to say it out loud, and and even if it's just frame by frame by frame, and then it becomes something much bigger. And I don't know, Phyllis, do you have advice? You're a seasoned poet of so many years. Do you have advice for poets, would-be poets?
Well, on the subject of young poets, I've taught for many years, and I have had so many kids over the years tell me I'm not good at poetry. And, they didn't even know that much about it, I don't think. And they were just excusing themselves, and they turn around and write something absolutely fabulous. So I just have learned that that's very typical of people to discount themselves a lot. And then another piece of advice that I love very much, and I remind myself of this all the time, William Stafford, who wrote a poem every day of his adult life, pretty much. People said, do you get to heaven every day in your poetry, or Jerusalem, or something like that? He said, no, I just lower my standards and I just keep going. So Just have to keep writing. Lower your standards, just do it.
Yeah.
When you get something on the page, then you have something to work with. But if you never put anything down, then you're just squashing it before it even has a chance to germinate at all.
Mhm. Yeah. Just put down the seed, lay the seed, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for coming and joining us. And
Thank you so much for having us. It's
yeah.
really wonderful to be able to celebrate this together.
And I just thank you so much for your ongoing work, and all my best to you, Zoya. I'm just so really gobsmacked at your poetry. It is fabulous, and your voice is so strong. And just all the best to you. Yeah,
Thank you so much. It
absolutely.
means a lot, really.
We wait to hear more from you. I want to see your first published collection. Yeah.
I will let you know when that comes for sure.
Okay. All right, my loves. Well, good night.